Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is April 24th, 2025, Yom HaShoah v'Hagvura, the day of remembering Holocaust and heroism. It's broadcast 1289. Thank you, Penny. We've been doing this for more than 5 years, finding each other every weekday morning to learn some Torah, to mark the moments. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. It's going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to be singing. I won't pick up the guitar. It's Yom HaShoah, and it should be different. But let's greet each other, which is something that should not be different. Janice and Shush, Linda and Barry, good to see you. Shari, so glad you took your first 3 steps with a walker. More and more, baby steps one at a time. Debbie, Arlene, Cecile, Cheryl, and Ashley, Boker Tov. It's good to see all of you. I hope that you and yours are safe and well. Amy, it's lovely to see you too. Okay, in a second we're going to sing a bracha, and we'll learn some Torah today. Sunday and Amy, Sharon and Ron, good to see you. Corinne and Chana, Adrian and Rose, Dale, Boker Tov. Hi Lydia, hi Tziona. Okay, we're going to take a breath. Without a guitar, because of Yom HaShoah, we're going to sing a bracha, learn some Torah. Ya la 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 la, didi ya la la la, didi ya la la la, ay ay la la la, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kiddushanu B'mitzvotav V'tzivanu La'asok B'divrei Torah La'asok B'divrei Torah Hafoch ba v'hafoch ba La'asok B'divrei Torah Didi I lai 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 Didi I lai 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 Didi I lai 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 Ay ay lai lai. So good morning, friends. It's broadcast 1289. It is day 566 since October 7th. There will be time later in history to measure whether or not the comparisons that we make between survivors of the Shoah and survivors of October 7th are appropriate. There will be time to wonder whether this is the moment for deepening our advocacy for the 59 beloved hostages, 24 of whom, please God, are alive. There will be time for all of those debates. That time is not now, because anything that we can possibly do to channel the ferocity of our history and the depth of our grief to support and save our fellow human beings, our fellow Jews, that is what we are called to do today. What I want to do is just mention this week's Parsha, and then reflect a little bit on Yom HaShoah, but all of it, friends, all of it, is for the sake of saying this over and over in different ways. Those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. And we dare not forget any of the pain of the past as we face the future with a different identity and with increased vigilance ever since the Shoah. A little bit about the Parsha. In this week's Parsha, 2 young men die, Nadav and Avihu. They are children of Aaron the high priest. How they die is a matter of great mystery and pain, but they are burned to ash, and fellow Israelites carry them outside the camp. Just the visual of that lands very heavy today. And their father's response, Vayidom Aharon, Aaron was silent, is the most important thing we can do. until the next thing that we do, which is channel that grief and scream more loudly than we have already about the degradation being meted out to Israelis, not all of whom are Jewish, but in the name of the Jewish people, they are part of the Jewish homeland. And the way they are treated is reminiscent, in the worst of ways, of what the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, may their names be erased, did to our ancestors, biological and spiritual. And we know that what happens to the Jews is often an indicator of what will happen to everyone in a society. We are the canary in the coal mine for the collapse of society. We learned from the Shoah that we had to stand for ourselves in a different way. We had to recreate Jewish identity because the 6 million, some of whom were strong physically and some of whom were not, some of whom were babies and some of whom were elderly, some of whom were gay, some of whom were straight, some of whom were religious, some of whom were not, some of whom were affluent, some of whom lived in poverty. It didn't make a difference in the eyes of the Nazis, because a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. 6 million, as David just said, is too many to comprehend. But we are called to remember them. Arlene is sharing one of the ways in which the pain of the past and the pain of the present combine. Rachel Goldberg-Polin, a matriarch of our people, whose eyes carry the weight of thousands of years, says that she understands that silence. She shared that mothers from the Hostage and Missing Families Forum sometimes get together, hold hands, and are silent together in silence, in sadness. I am often asked as a rabbi, whenever I teach, no matter what the topic, where was God in the Shoah? And we don't know the answers. We can't possibly answer such a torturous question. But I wanted to ask it because I ask too. God, where were you? I'm going to ask it again because what else can we do when it comes to God? Where were you? I remember being 17 on March of the Living in Poland with friends who traveled from our gap year in Israel to bear witness. I remember returning to Poland with my Jewish a cappella group, Pismon from Columbia and JTS, to bear witness and to sing with a Jewish community in Poland that was somehow rising from the ashes. I remember returning to Poland when Russia attacked Ukraine and witnessed what Jewish strength and learning and memory calls us to do, which is to be strong enough to help others. I remember going to Lublin on this last trip to Poland with a group of rabbis, a famous yeshiva in Lublin called Yeshivat Chochmei Lublin, where the idea of Daf Yomi, learning one page of Talmud a day, was created by Rabbi Moshe Shapiro. I remember being told that when Ukrainian refugees came to Lublin, were dropped off just in the middle of town, as so many Ukrainian refugees find themselves, they are told by Polish people, Jewish and not, go to the yeshiva, they'll help you there. We have managed to answer that impossible question, but not in the way people expect. The question remains, where was God during the Shoah? And the answer is, we are here. I know it sounds like that's not an answer, but God's hands in the world are yours and mine. These are the answer to the question. We learn from the Shoah that we must show up with more strength, more determination, more savvy, more planning, because as I said, and countless philosophers have also pointed out, eloquently and with pain, it doesn't make a difference what kind of Jew you think you are, even if you think that you can walk away, because in the eyes of those who hate Jews, you can't, and no matter what kind of Jew you are, you, God forbid, would have been subject to their hate. We learn from that in a powerful way, parallel to what we learned in Egypt. We are called to remember what it is to be a stranger in a strange land, because no matter where, friends, we find ourselves, we are Jews in the world, and that means when we forget that we are one, the world reminds us. And no more painful a reminder have we experienced since the Shoah as we did on October 7th. I won't go into the details of the horrors that we know were perpetrated on babies and women and men and families and the elderly and the young and the secular and the religious. It is upon us to fight back with such strength that such an idea would never occur to anyone again. I both channel what it is to be an emissary of God in the world, which every person of faith is called to be, to extend kindness and refuge, to show mercy and justice, but also to fight when those things are violated. I cannot really, on a literal level, answer the question, where was God? I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. Vayidom Aharon, Aaron was silent. How can we speak if Aaron remains silent? How can we answer such a question? But we can ask it, and we can do our best to embody the answer, which is to say, whatever it is that you think God should have been doing, why didn't people? If God is supposed to be the protector of the orphan and the widow, the vulnerable and the poor, where were we on October 7th? Where were we? And in the days and now years since October 7th, to so many in the world, we have every right, with rage in our eyes, to ask the same question: where were you? When our children, days after October 7th, were assaulted on college campuses. When our neighbors who present as Jews walked down the street and were physically assaulted. When school boards in California just last week assaulted Jews. Where were you? Because if the image of God is a universal human truth, then the responsibility to act in godly ways is also a universal human truth. We have every right to demand of other human beings humanity. So in the staggering loss of our 6 million and our staggering loss on October 7th, 2023 and since, which has terrible echoes of the Shoah emblazoned in my eyes. And for the sake of you and your equilibrium, I won't go into the details that so many of us have been subject to physically see, and having returned to Israel in the days shortly after October 7th, not just our eyes, but the smell, the sound. We will find our way to delineate between pains in Jewish history. We will, with time. But the same questions must be asked. God, where were you? And the same response must be offered. Here I am. Here we are. Images of God, a fraction of God's infinite power at our disposal, and we demand in the name of our martyrs, bring them home now. To our influencers, the people on the side of Israel who are supposed to be negotiating for our hostages, which must be the priority of our people. Because who will come to our defense if not us? Im ein anili mili, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? Said the ancient sage Hillel. And when a young student on the campus of Boston University asked Elie Wiesel decades ago, Professor Wiesel, there is a march against apartheid in South Africa this Sunday and a march in solidarity with Soviet Jewry this Sunday. Which one should I go to? Elie Wiesel answered as an exemplar of the best of our values. He said both, of course, but you must go to the march in solidarity with Soviet Jewry, because if you don't go to the march in solidarity with Soviet Jewry, who will go? We have always been and must always be ready, willing, and passionate in defense of every vulnerable other. And in the moments where history reminds us that we are that vulnerable other too, that we had to wear yellow stars, we were separated from our family members to the right and to the left, and we were desecrated. We have learned those lessons, and we must continue to remember them. We must remember our heroes, like my beloved hero, Ben Stern, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory. He survived 5 camps and the Death March to make his way to Skokie, Illinois, where he led the survivors' community to found the Janusz Korczak B'nai B'rith Lodge. He stood up when a rabbi told a community of survivors when neo-Nazis were going to march in Skokie. The rabbi said, just sit tight, draw your window shades, it'll be over soon. And Ben Stern, in shul, on Yom Kippur, screamed at the rabbi, not here, not now. We must say the exact same thing, friends. For the sake of Jewish safety and for the sake of human values which are under attack. Not here, not now. Last night I went to a Yom HaShoah tekes, a ceremony with my daughter, and it was the first time I went to a Yom HaShoah ceremony and there was not a living survivor giving testimony. Feiskola's daughter and 2 granddaughters gave testimony of her life, told her story. We are now the memory keepers. And memory is a burden. I share this story every Yom HaShoah. It's told in a book edited by David Issei from the organization StoryCorps, where people record each other's interviews, and it is saved in the Library of Congress. A survivor's daughter writes that she long asked her father to tell her what happened because she grew up being told the story of time in the camps as a version of the Little Rascals, where the little Jews were always outsmarting the foolish Nazis. An enchanted version of a nightmare. And she learned, of course, that this isn't true. She knew. So she would say to her father, Dad, tell me what happened. And he would refuse. He would not tell her until the end of his life, when he was clearly in his final months. And she says, Dad, you have to tell me now. You must tell me. And he blows up at her and says, darling daughter, I don't want to tell you this. I have never wanted to tell you this because I live in a room. And I am always in that room. And if I tell you what really happened, you will be in this room. And I don't want you in this room. And his daughter said, Dad, I need to know. So he told her. And she ends her entry in this book with the acknowledgement, he was right. Now I'm in this room too. Friends, I don't wish this for us, but I say with everything I've got, we are in that room. We are the memory keepers. And if you haven't taken the time to hear testimony, now is the time. We are called to bear the memory of our people. Tisha B'Av during the summer, we remember the destruction of the temple, and we have placed on that commemorative day so much of the pain we have gone through. The fall of Beitar, which was the end of the Second Jewish Commonwealth, the signing of the Edict of Expulsion from Spain in 1492. We have placed in a ritualized way days that call us and remind us to bear memory, to bear testimony. We, in this day, 2025, are no less called than we have ever been. I do not wish for us trauma. David writes so tenderly, it's so hard to share traumatic memories. We do not want others to suffer the way we suffered. Of course we don't, because we are vessels of love. But friends, so were they. And so, this is our job. They taught us by their life force, and they teach us after their deaths what we are called to do, which is fight for life, to remember the worst of what people have done, and to stand in its way. October 7th was the worst day in Jewish history since the Shoah. And if we are truly students of the past and witnesses to what was done, then we had better be ready to stand in defense of our people with more passion, more volume, more strategy, more strength than ever before. Because we dare not become this next chapter an echo of the previous. We said never again. We had better have meant it. For the sake of the Jewish community and for the sake of shared society. In a place the ancient sages teach us, B'makom she'ein anashim hishtadel liot ish. In a place where there is not humanity, be human. So I'm going to close today with two things. One of them is an El Maleh, a prayer for memory for the 6 million. And then we're going to sing Hatikva. I ask you, while we sing, while we pray, to make a decision today about an action you are going to take today to fight for the release of the hostages in the name of the 6 million. You and I can debate some other time whether or not that's appropriation. I don't think it is. I think we are called by our history because we are in that room. So let me say it plainly before I begin the prayer. We are called because we are in that room to fight for our sisters and brothers who are still in those tunnels. So let that in, friends, and make a decision about an action you will take today. El Maleh for the 6 million. El Maleh Rachamim, Shochein B'Maromim, Hamatzeg Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, B'malot Kedoshim U'Teorim, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים לנשמות 6 מיליוני אחיותינו ואחינו אשר נספו בשואה, שנהרגו ושנשחטו, שנחנקו ושנקברו חיים, שנשרפו ושעונו, ילדים וזקנים, נשים וגברים, מורי דרכים עם פשוטי עם, אנשי אמונה ותורה, עם מורדים וחולמים, הנהבים והנעימים בחייהם, ובמותם לא נפרדו, לנשמות בני דתות ועמים רבים שנפלו קורבן לתאוות הרשע הנאצית, ובהם מתנגדי המשטר הרצחני, הומוסקסואלים ולסביות, צוענים בעלי נכויות בגוף ונפש, עם רבים אחרים שלא נמצאו ראויים לחיים. בעל הרחמים, הסתירים בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור חיים את נשמתם, בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם, אדוני ונחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם, ונאמר אמן. Just the end of it. Master of compassion, safeguard our beloved 6 million in your wings forever. Bind their souls in everlasting life. May they rest in Gan Eden. May God be their inheritance. May they rest in peace. And let us say Amen. Send your hearts, friends. Send your hearts. Kol hod balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia. עוד לא עבדה תקוותנו, התקווה בת שנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. Never again. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai.